Welcome everyone. My name's Linda and this is Tim. We're from Yarra Libraries and today we're extremely privileged to have Matthew Lee with us from the Monash University drone platform. The platform utilises drones together with advanced sensing technologies, operational expertise and smart analytics to deliver state-of-the-art aerial imaging and remote sensing solutions to the research community and partners with industry. Matthew is the platform's manager and is the central source for operational drone expertise at Monash. Matthew has a wealth of experience using drones for photography, as well as surveying, inspection, and 3D photogrammetry. Is that correct? Perfect. So today, Matthew will be delivering the presentation at 11, which is now, on the current state of drone technology, how you can safely take advantage of drones in your next project, and the rules around using drones for photography within Australia. Following this presentation, Matthew will be exhibiting from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, where he can answer all of your questions in person about drones, from how they work, what the rules are, and the innovative ways they're being used in Australia. Also at the exhibition this afternoon, you'll see some of the latest technology, including aircraft and cameras, with plenty of examples from imagery captured by the Drone Discovery platform. So before we start, I'd like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people as the traditional owners and true sovereigns of the land now known as Yarra. We also acknowledge the significant contributions made by other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people to life in Yarra. We pay our respects to elders from all nations here today and to their elders past, present and future. So thank you everyone. I'll pass over to Matthew now.
Thank you very much, Linda, that kind introduction. Yes, I am the platform manager for the Drone Discovery platform at Monash University, situated on Clayton campus. We have been set up to support university researchers to utilise drones in a safe manner. So we have quite a large fleet of drones, and as well as that, some pretty unique sensors. And any researcher interested in utilising drones as a research tool comes to us and we help them through that process. Because the survey techniques, the technology, the regulatory environment, the maintenance, the risks associated with them is a barrier to entry for most researchers, and so we cut all that red tape for them, and that's what this Drone Discovery platform was set up to do. So we manage a whole fleet of drones. These are just okay. Well, let's talk about drone as a job first. So I studied at Monash University in early 2010s, so between 2009 and 2012, studying environmental science. And I was trying to become a botanist, and I succeeded at that. I was a botanist, a consulting botanist for a few years after university, but then saw in probably 2013, 14, that drones were starting to be used for mapping. And I saw an opportunity there that I was like, okay, maybe this can be applied to what I do at work, which was a botanist who went and sought out wildflowers and characterized habitat and did quality assessments for urban planning. And I thought, well, let's see if drones can be of value there. So I started to look into it, and that's where I met my business partner in 2014. And we set up a drone services company just here in Church Street. So just towards the BP station on Church Street, we had a warehouse, and we built a small company where we delivered drones as a service, doing the same thing, cutting all that red tape for businesses to be able to utilize drones. And what we were selling wasn't the technology, wasn't the hiring the technology, it was the data that the technology collected. These are really cool, they're very interesting, but the reason why they're interesting is because they give you a unique perspective and are able to carry unique sensors. So that data is really what is of value to people. Over the following few years, I started to do some really interesting projects helping to run that company. I had the opportunity to inspect what are called drift eliminators inside the cooling tower of Loy Yang Power Station. So if you think about The Simpsons, when you have the nuclear power plant, you've got these big cylindrical buildings, which are cooling towers. They're designed to cool down the steam from the steam turbines and recondense it. So they were down for some maintenance, and we were hired to fly drones inside there to inspect a lot of the aging infrastructure inside there. And I'm not sure if anyone knows about Loy Yang coal-fired power station down in Morwell, out in Gippsland, but it is at end of life. It is actually beyond its projected end of life. And what the state and federal governments are doing are trying to get a little bit more out of it by investing heavily in maintaining assets which are very much due for end of life. So as a part of that, they hired us to have a look at this and see and inspect some of the footings, foundations, drift eliminators. And I'll show you some videos of that a little bit later, which is really quite interesting. Following that, I got that company merged, got absorbed by a bigger drone services company called Australian UAV. And they did inspections, but not just taking photos, creating 3D environments from these photos with such quality that inspections could be done on them. So the cracks could be measured on the photo, and the width change over time could all be measured on these really beautiful, and I'll show you some of the data later on. Really, it's my favorite application for drones, which is called Photogrammetry, which Linda mentioned before, and we'll go through that. Following that, I got employed by Monash University in the role that was described before. So there are a fair few of us now. There are, in 2017, there was a big spike in applications for licensing. It went from, in 2014, it went from 500 licensed nationally. To 2015, it was 2,500. And then 2016, I think it peaked at around 3,500. These are what are called operator certificates. These are companies, 3,000 companies, institutions, groups that are approved to fly by the federal government. But after that, it started to tail off as these companies came together. Some startups didn't succeed, some got absorbed and agglomerated. It's the natural progression of most new industries where you get this, what is called the peak of expectation and the trough of disillusionment. Basically, we're now becoming into a maturing stage, or maturing is probably not the right word. We're past the startup phase for drones as an actual tool in business. Like any tool, some people can't stand them, and others, it's their whole life. And for me, it's my whole life. And so, yeah, there's plenty of us out there now. And what I'm going to do in this presentation is to describe to you how they're being used, how it's benefiting everyone, hopefully. Then talk about possibly how they're being misused and what we can do. And what you can do to, so if you're worried about, oh, can I fly a drone? Where can I fly a drone? What do I do if I see a drone buzzing over my house? All these questions, and I'll answer those at the end. Following that, I'll turn the drone on and we can have a look at the thermal camera in action and the zoom camera in action, and we'll play around with the properties of long wave infrared radiation, which is pretty cool. Alrighty, so let's get stuck into it. So these are some of the aircraft we've got at the platform, some but not all, and some of the sensors that we got. And I'll run through each of these individually, everything from LiDAR, hyperspectral, multispectral, thermal, cameras, everything. So the first application I'll talk about is inspection. And this is probably one that is low-hanging fruit for a lot of people. It's a drone holds camera and it can get to places that is difficult, hard, dangerous for people to get to. So these are the kind of inspection jobs I was doing. Was under Victoria Pier in Docklands, transmission lines, so your high voltage power lines inspections, and what else have I got there? Oh, and dam faces, and the Loy Yang power station that I described before. So let's have a look at some of these. So I'm going to, please forgive me as I try to find some videos of this. So of course, the benefits for using drones to inspect things is pretty clear. You can get to places quickly and easily that you can't elsewhere. Yep, cheers. So let's have a look at this. So this video demonstrates the power of the zoom on this and how we can have a look at look at an asset and the quality of that particular junction point from a safe distance. So the drone actually doesn't have to be anywhere near the asset to be able to conduct its inspection. So they're quite capable, these cameras, but the capability actually comes from the gimbal rather than the camera itself, because that drone is being buffeted by the wind. But as you can see, the camera is nice and stable. So let's see if we've got something else. So beyond drones, we also use drone boats. Okay, this is going to be interesting. How do I go back? That bit done. Go. So when I talked about Victoria Pier before, is everyone familiar with Victoria Pier in the middle of the Docklands? It's a nice, it's a beautiful old pier, and I accent the term old. Can anyone see drone boat, drone, or autonomous survey boat? So this boat was built by Melbourne University as an autonomous survey boat. So it's another form of drone. It's just not in the air, it's on the water. Same technology. It runs on the same technology as a drone, but instead of controlling propellers, it controls impellers. Impellers? Yeah, it's a jet boat. So same technology, just different application. Runs on GPS and cameras and everything like that, just on the water. And it was built to conduct systematic surveys mapping the bottom of the Earth using a multi-beam echo sounder. So that can map the ground, the seafloor in 3D. What we use this for, we strapped a whole bunch of lights and cameras on the top of it and had a look up at the base of Victoria Pier, because it has actually been condemned. No one apart from the security guards can walk on the top because it is crumbling, and especially after the earthquake that we had about 12 months ago, was it? That earthquake happened. Anyway, relatively recently. It shook that pier, and it is crumbling from underneath. So we had and you can't, it's not safe to go under there. So we get a drone boat, send it under, and it's a bit of fun. So you'll see my less than okay drone flying skills here, but let's have a look at the little thing. So the reason why we use this is because of its maneuverability and the reliability of the signal that we get for a drone, because obviously when you're underneath a pier, it bounces the signal around, and we had a couple of issues with maintaining good signal, but I thought this was a little bit of fun. This is down at Sandringham Yacht Club, me playing around. So it goes a little. It's fun, but that's designed to map the seafloor. So that'll go back and forth across huge areas of Port Phillip Bay, tracking the build-up and erosion of sediment in different locations as boats go do their thing. The boat, maybe 5 knots. Yeah, it's a small boat. Like, it's deceptively small. It's only like this big. So it had a nice wake, I did admit. I do admit. What else have we got? Loy Yang. Let's have a look at Loy Yang. That's a good one. So Loy Yang thermal. Actually, let's do it inside. So this is the cylindrical room. So this is the inside the cooling tower of a coal-fired power station. And I can't express to you what it's like to be in a football field-sized cylindrical room. Acoustically, it is just an unbelievable place to be. You can, because of the nature of the shape of it, you can whisper on one side and literally 150, 200 meters away, it's like they're whispering in your ear right next to you. It is a really weird acoustic space to be in. So what we did is we flew a drone underneath that, in a confined space underneath there to measure it. And I think I've got a video of that as well. It is a tricky experience, but when you have skilled pilots, not me, to fly in confined spaces, you can usually get some pretty interesting outcomes. Where is it? Loy Yang. Inside 2, there we go. So that's us with, so the walkways here have been condemned as well, but you can see there's guy ropes and cabling that we had to dodge. And what we were doing was inspecting these nozzles and the walkway for safety, and just to check the condition and whether or not it needed active maintenance. It's only a small drone, but the wind conditions in there were very challenging. Okay, and we'll do one more. This is Loy Yang in thermal. So I'll talk a little bit more about thermal later on. There we go. Indeed, and that's because you've got it's condensing the water. So obviously, as it goes up, the water condenses. It's warm water. It's really quite warm. You're talking, it could be up to 60 degrees at some points, because obviously it condenses and then trickles back down, and it's still very warm. Obviously at the flare stack there, drones, especially this particular unit, is now being used to reignite flare stacks. So when they blow out, they mount phosphorus payloads onto these drones, fly over the stack and drop these phosphorus payloads, which ignite and reignite the flare stack. Not in Australia. They don't do that in Australia because you can't drop literally incendiary devices from a drone yet. Well, you can, you're just not allowed to. Okay, so let's move on from inspection and have a look at photogrammetry. So photogrammetry is the method, it's also called structure from motion, and it is a method of creating digital 3D models from a series of photos. So how it works is that if I was to take a photo from here, so the drone knows where it is. It has a nice, very accurate GPS down to a centimeter or so. It knows its location very clearly. So what it does is it takes a photo here of just this place, and it knows where it is. And then it takes a photo here with lots of overlap in those two photos. Now, it then detects in the two different photos common features within the two images. And because using basic trigonometry, trust me, the math gets very, very intense, but it can, you've got the depth, you've got the path, then it's just trigonometry, and you can identify the location of that common point. Then you do that quite literally hundreds of millions of times. And what you end up with is a big cloud of points that represents the landscape that you were looking at. You join all those points up and you put a texture on them, and then you get a 3D model. So I'll show you what one of those 3D models looks like. Now this one was from, this is my favorite model. I captured this in the middle of Melbourne CBD. They were knocking down an old 70s apartment building. And as they were doing so, they revealed an old church behind it. They never knew it was there. Internally, they just thought it was another building. But when they knocked down this, this front set of apartments, it sort of revealed a facade of an old church. And they quickly heritage listed it and were working on refurbishing, not refurbishing it, at least just holding on to it. So I think it's this one, archival recording, digital twins. Let's try digital. This will all depend on internet speed. So it may be a little slow. So you can see how it's reproducing the model. So you can see here that that's a construction site. So you can see the construction site here at the front of the building. And when that was demolished, it revealed this facade. And we can get nice and close. And this is all made just from photos. So you can see how this can be used for inspection, and these kinds of models, what I was describing before, that you can create a 3D model that you can then do an inspection on. This was I've got to try and learn how to do this. I'm used to using a mouse. Either way, you can see there, it's very interesting. And we also can inspect roofs. So roof inspection is clearly a meaningful application of this work. This is in Melbourne. This is right in the CBD. Oh, I'm going to try and say Lonsdale Street, but I'm not certain. Well, I should know. Oh, let's see if we can find, here we go, Nicholas Hall. All right, I'll tell you how I know it's Nicholas Hall. It says Nicholas Hall. If anyone knows where Nicholas Hall is, write it in the comments. Church services, charter hall. There we go. So yeah, very, very high resolution, very, very interesting. Whoops, I go back in. Alrighty, so these 3D models can also be used to track erosion. So if you take the same images, but of a natural landscape, Coode Island. Oh, okay, this is interesting. This is of the Port of Melbourne. This is work I did for Port of Melbourne. Everyone's probably familiar with what's called rock revetments or rock armor, which is all around Melbourne. It is the rocks that protect against erosion due to the wake from boats. And the rock revetments around Melbourne are aging, and they're aging fairly in varying degrees depending on when they were built. And I'm hoping I can find examples of good and poor. But what we were tasked with doing was surveying these rock revetments, modeling these rocks in 3D. And from that, the engineers at Port of Melbourne would calculate using water models to calculate what is the impact. What the impact of wave action was going to be, how long they had before it was going to fail, what the erosion rates are, how much material they would need to be able to maintain that. Okay, curled. It's having a moment. Just open that up again. Oh, and this has had a moment. That's fine. I assume it's the most recent one. Oh. Try that again. Can I refresh? There we go. It does take a fair bit of RAM, which a small device like this may not enjoy. Oh, I have a video of it. Let's just do a video. That's easier. Rock revetment. Rock revetment post-processing. So ignore the water here. It doesn't like to 3D model water, but we'll. So you can see here that this is quite a degraded rock revetment. How jagged it is, it should be a smooth armament along the front. But you can see that these rocks are quite jagged and displaced. And that's the kind of thing that they were looking for. And from that, they can calculate how long until end of life for that. You see water doesn't like to model because there's no common features because water moves. Alrighty. We might have a look at virtual tours. We can basically do Google Street View from drones as well. We'll move on from that. Okay, so this is an application hypothetical between how drones and using photogrammetry has changed the way people do business, and surveying is a really, really big one. So it says a hypothetical scenario. It's not hypothetical. I did this particular job, but it's a hypothetical comparison at Maffra landfill. So that's Maffra landfill, where they have to monitor for EPA and auditing and compaction rate compliance. They have to report on the nature of the compaction of landfill. So you dump your trash there, cover it in dirt, and then you stamp it down. It's about calculating how much you've pushed that trash down so that you can figure out how much more trash you can put on top of it. And what they used to do is get a guy with a stick and a GPS, just take a point, and he would just go all over the place, all over the site, and eventually you'd get a couple of thousand points that you could string together and calculate the heights and how much compaction you were doing. Now with this, that would take 2 days. 2 days to do of a guy out on the site in amongst the diggers and the excavators, and that was a big safety issue and amongst hazardous material. Now, drones have revolutionized how this is done. A drone can collect the data in 45 minutes, an hour, process the data, another 2 hours. By the end of the day, you've got your 3D model there ready to go. And instead of having thousands of points, you quite literally have hundreds of millions of 3D points to be able to calculate accurately your anything you have to. As well as that, it removes the people from the hazardous environment. So that's been a big one. I did a lot of landfills around Australia, and we do them every month as required by EPA. Did in my past job, not this job. Thermal. So this is a lot of fun. We'll play with the thermal camera a little bit later on after the presentation. Or should we do it now? We'll do it later. We'll play with the thermal camera a little bit later, but this will test. So a thermal camera is just a camera. It just looks in a part of the spectrum that we can't see in. And I'll go into a little bit more on that in a minute with hyperspectral data, but we see in the rainbow spectrum, Roy G. Biv spectrum. If you go down into, you go red, then you keep going past red, we can't see anymore. You go into the infrared, then you go into the long wave infrared. So long wave infrared is everything glows, basically. Anything that's emitting heat glows in the long wave infrared. Have you ever seen when you heat up an iron bar hot enough, it starts to glow? That's because it gets so hot that it's glowing very, very brightly in the long wave infrared, and so much so that it actually comes into the visible range, and that's why we can see it glowing. What the long wave, what the thermal camera does, it just looks in this long wave infrared spectrum and everything glows, and it's able to be, and its values correspond to its temperature. So we can then calculate its temperature from how much it, for lack of a better word, glows in the long wave infrared spectrum. So we can have a look at some of this. So it is used for fauna monitoring. I wonder which one I've got here. Probably not a great one. What is this cactus? No, okay. So I use it for fauna monitoring, tracking animals. And I always find this one. Those are kangaroos in a forest. In the visual range, it largely just looks like a bunch of canopy trees. But you can see that warm animals can come out very, very clearly there. And you can even see one depositing an egg. Industrial inspection, so that is the, yes. So as well as that, with emergency management, so we're not allowed to fly near bushfires because the Elvis helicopters that water bomb take priority, and they need to take priority. As much as it'd be great to be able to track fires and see where they are through the smoke, because this will be able to see through smoke like it's not even there. And a lot of fireys would like to see these being used to track fire fronts in real time and give real-time reconnaissance to frontline bushfire workers to track things. However, we had a discussion with the fireys. This is back in 2016-17. The things might have changed since then, but the last conversation I had with them was that the Elvis helicopters just need to take priority, and they can't be worried about a drone being somewhere there that they're going to end up collecting along the way, because they've just got to, because they come in fast, they drop the water very fast, and they get out, and they don't want to be thinking about if there's another aircraft in the air. So when we spoke to them, they're just like, nah, for now, we're just not going to worry about it. They were more interested in bouncing radio signals off them, using drones as a radio beacon relay to be able to get comms into gullies in which firefighters are operating, because that's actually a big risk for them, is when they're out fighting, they go deep bush and they lose communications. And when they lose comms, they don't know what the fire behavior is doing. That's very dangerous. But you can see here that, yeah, so this is just hot ground. So this was, we did this to sort of map out the areas which reptiles might hang out. So warm thermal beds to try and characterize the habitat for certain reptile species. And you can see here that this is why you should plant trees in your neighborhood, and for urban planning, get onto your council members, because the effect of trees and canopy on urban heat island effect is really, really big. And you can see that impact here. Anywhere where there's no trees, the earth just heats up. And if that's stone or if that's soil, that it retains that heat and will release it overnight, especially concrete as well. It'll retain that heat and release it back again into the atmosphere and overnight. But if you have the trees and you have that canopy shade, it does a huge amount to reduce that thermal heat loading. You can just see some interesting, I think there's a kangaroo there somewhere. It's very small. But yeah. We also, the only fires that are being tracked using drones are, well, not in Australia, but are for peat bogs. So a peat bog fire can last thousands of years. They're very low temperature fires, and they're also anoxic. So they burn low temperatures underground for long periods of time, and drones and thermal cameras have been used to track those hotspots. And you can see here, there's the thermal roof map. That's actually a building at Monash University. We were looking at that urban heat island effect that we were describing before, looking at different roofing materials and how they retain heat. So survey was done in the daytime when it's as hot as it'll get, and then also at nighttime to see how what roof materials were starting to emit heat out into the atmosphere at nighttime. Oh, and then there's this one. There's a hot dog. Wait, can't help that. So this is my sausage dog. And he doesn't like the drone, so he gets angry at it. But yeah, you can see why dogs need socks, because they've got cold feet and cold noses. Alrighty. What are we doing for time? Oh, I'm lingering. Didn't think I'd take this on. Hyperspectral cameras. Actually, we'll get into, I've got 20 minutes. I'll touch on this because it's a really cool piece of technology for a nerd like myself. So I spoke about before the fact that humans see in the rainbow spectrum. This particular camera sees in the near infrared and shortwave infrared. So this is in between normal camera and the thermal camera. This sees in the band in between that. But I'm not sure if you guys know, but when you take a photo with your phone, it actually is 3 layers on top of each other: a red layer, a green layer, and a blue layer. And those RGB image, red, green, blue. And when your phone takes the photo, it takes every pixel, it is a light intensity value in the red, and then a light intensity value in the blue, and a light intensity in the green. And you put those together and you get your image. What this hyperspectral camera does, and we do this for research, is it takes 570 layers. Not just red, green, so it doesn't take red, green, blue, but as a RGB camera takes 3 layers, this one takes 527, 270 times 2, 540 layers. So it takes 540 layers, and because you can get intensity values of each pixel, so 500, every pixel has 540 different values in different bands of the spectrum, which means you can graph it like you can see there, and that's called a spectrograph. And different ground, so different minerals will come up with, ground soil minerals will come up with a different spectrograph. So all of a sudden we can identify what minerals are in the soil, or at least on the soil surface, using these spectrographs. Same with different species of plant, but a big portion of this work is used in agriculture to assess plant health, but as well as that in the mining industry to assess mineral compositions, likely locations of mineral ore, and things like that, because you can start to identify exactly what minerals are in the soil from the air. Oh, and LiDAR. Okay, LiDAR is an active sensor as opposed to passive. It does the same thing as the photogrammetry that I described before, but as opposed to using a series of photos, it actually shoots out a laser. So we know the drone knows where it is, and it knows where it's aiming using the gimbal. It knows where it's aiming its laser, and then it shoots the laser beam and counts how long it takes for it to hit the target and bounce back to the sensor. So then it knows exactly where that location is. Does this hundreds of millions of times, and all of a sudden you get another point cloud. And this is beneficial because you can actually see through the canopy by shooting a laser strong enough to penetrate leaves. So have you ever, if you have a look at, shine a strong light through your hand, you can sometimes see through it, or at least it'll glow red. You can see some light gets through. Same with the laser. It's a powerful laser that is able to penetrate the canopy, and all of a sudden you can have a look at the topography and landscape under the canopy, and we use that quite regularly. Do I want to show it? Time. let's get to the stuff that's more relevant to you guys. So those are some of the digital elements. I've already spoken about all those. Okay, now let's start talking about drones and the community, and how may you guys, if if you're interested in flying, how you can get it. So the first thing you've got to consider is, do I need a license to fly a drone? And the answer is maybe, like everything. It depends on what you want to fly and what purpose you want to fly it for. So the first thing is the little drones, anything below 250 grams, you can fly. As a hobbyist, you can fly and make money from it, not a problem. And you can actually fly it almost anywhere. Don't fly it over the, you can fly it almost anywhere. You can fly it. I'll get into where you can and can't fly next, but with the 250 gram, just be responsible about where you fly it. But there are no rules, specific rules around that. Now, the sub 2 kilogram class is the one where everyone gets a little bit confused. So any drone below 2 kilogram, and you'll recognize that the Phantom that is a very common one. But this is usually the one that you see at JB Hi-Fi and Harvey Norman and all these places. These sub 2 kilo class can be, you don't need a license to fly it as a hobbyist. So if you're not making money from it, you don't need a license. If you're making money from it, you do need a license. It's called an REPL license, a remote pilot's license. But you don't need an REOC, a remote operator's certificate, which is a larger certificate, typically governs the operation of drones for a whole company. So once you get between 2 kilograms and 7 kilograms, then you definitely need a license no matter what you're doing, and you definitely need an operator certificate. So a company, you need an ABN, and that company needs to apply for a remote operator certificate and has to have the systems and processes in place, the safety systems and processes in place in order to get approved. And then you have to, each of your pilots have to have their REOC as well. And then obviously the bigger you get, it's just more licensing and then more endorsements and things like that. You have a question? You have to do a course. So the course is usually, let's talk about the smaller ones. So it's usually about $1,000 to $1,500 to for the course. They do a day of training, and you do. So there's a number of components. There's theory. So it's like, what is a drone? How does it work? Then there is a component which is the rules, which goes through the rules, largely what I'm telling you here. Then there is you also get an AROC, an Aeronautical Radio Operator Certificate, which basically they teach you how to talk to planes on the radio, because they operate with a VHF radio, and you have to be able to talk to them in their language, which is like, radio language. And then there is a practical component. So you need to have 6 hours of flight. It's called on type under your belt. And most of the training facilities will do that with you on the day, 6 hours of flying, which is a long time. But yes, so, and that's what the training looks like. So that's the licensing you need. But you can fly over your property, over your personal property, largely without a license, but you can't exceed that with, you can't exceed the boundaries of your property without a license. Okay, let's get into the more detailed drone rules beyond licensing. All right, let's have a look. You must not fly your drone over an area affecting public safety or where emergency operations are underway. So this is what I described before. Don't fly near floods, don't fly near car crashes, don't fly near fires. Emergency services take priority. You don't want to get in the way of a a medical helicopter because you're putting people's lives at risk there. So that is one of the big no-nos. And in the website that I'll show in a minute, you'll see that it actually has the locations of all the current fires on Melbourne, in Melbourne, and where not to fly. We've got, if you are near a helicopter landing site, smaller aerodrome without a control tower, you can fly within 5.5 kilometers. If you become aware of a manned aircraft, you must maneuver away and land your drone as quickly and safely as possible. So 3 nautical miles, aviation still works in nautical miles and feet. So that's something you'll have to deal with. But that basically means there's lots and lots of helipads around Melbourne. And you can operate within 5.5 kilometers. You just have to be aware of where they are. And if you see a helicopter, just land. If you intend to fly your drone or work commercially, there are extra rules you must follow, and also you need to register your drone. I've described those just before. So there's licensing and registration requirements. There's risk management and maintenance rules around it. But yes, so that there are different rules for people with a license. You must not fly your drone higher than 120 meters, 400 feet. So 0 to 400 feet is manned airspace. 400 to 500 feet is actually blank, intentionally blank, so that you're not having cranes or buildings or anything encroaching into that space. And then at 500 feet, you get the lowest limit that aircraft can fly at. So apart from when they're taking off and landing, they can't encroach below 500 feet unless they have permission for like crop dusting and things like that. But so there is 100 foot or 33.33 meters or something. There is a 100-foot buffer between the ceiling that drones can fly at and the very, very lowest that aircraft can fly at. Ever have a helicopter go over your house and rattles the windows? That's them at 500 feet doing something. You must keep your drone at least 30 meters away from other people. So I always say you must keep your drone 30 meters away from non-project or non-operational staff. So 30 meters is quite a distance. Don't come within 30 meters of people, unless what I call you've inducted them in. So if I do an induction and we talk about all the safety things and we talk about what we're going to do, then you become a part of this little project that I'm doing. And then we can, because we've managed the risk of that, then they're a part of the part of the project, and they can come within 30 meters. But that is a general rule: 30 meters buffer between your drone and a person. Nope. Yes, and we go through a series of briefing, and it's you could. You could, probably not a bad idea, because if I accidentally run my drone into something really expensive or accidentally fly into them, heavens forbid, then I've got literal proof saying, hey, we spoke about the rules and all this sort of stuff. So look, getting things down on paper, never a bad idea. And we do that in our operations. We have a system that records who is a part of the operation and who's been briefed as a part of the university. Oh, we lost the, oh great. Read up here is actually better for me. You must only fly one drone at a time. That might seem like a silly rule, but most of these things are autonomous. So I can click a button and I can send that away and it will do a massive survey for me. And then it'll detect when its battery is low and come back with enough battery to land safely. So some commercial operators, I've got to do so many, I might just get another drone and send it the opposite direction, and we can survey 2 areas at once. No, you can't do that. Stay 5.5 kilometers, 3 nautical miles from a towered aerodrome. Now that's a big one because Moorabbin Airport, Avalon, and Tullamarine are the big ones. And when I'll show you in a minute what their flight path is, there is a map that you can access on the internet completely free that'll show you where the approach lines for these things are. Don't go anywhere near them. If you have a license, you can request permission, operate within there, but it's called a notice to airmen. You have to submit a notice to all airmen and get permission to do that. And it's only a particular window in which you can. But a towered airport is, Moorabbin, Avalon. There is one down at Cerberus with the military base down there, and Tullamarine. Just stay away from. Says 5.5 kilometers or 3 nautical miles. I'll give you a website which it literally maps out where you can and can't fly, and it's all interactive. So it's the best resource you could use. Remember, you must not operate your drone in a way that creates a hazard for any other aircraft or person. Be responsible with the way you operate your aircraft. And I'll get into trespass and surveillance and things in a minute. You must not fly, you must fly during the day. You must fly during the day if you don't have a license. You can get special permissions to fly at night, which I've done to track animals. You can get endorsed. You have to do a little bit of extra training, but you can fly at night. If you crash, can you justify why it wasn't daylight? Because if you crash and hurt somebody, the Civil Aviation Authority is going to come ask some questions. You have to be able to justify why you could maintain line of sight. So the key metric that they're looking for is that you could see that drone. And you could see the drone without its lights on, basically. If you can't, then you're beyond visual line of sight and you are violating some rules. There is gray areas everywhere, but I always do it. Can you justify why you were inside that rule? And as long as you are comfortable with that justification and you believe that the federal auditor will be comfortable with that justification, then you're good to go. You must keep your drone within visual line of sight. That's a big one. It's a big limitation to what's going on there. This is why Google and Amazon are having a lot of trouble with their current delivery things, is because they can't fly more than one drone at a time. They have to remain within visual line of sight. You can get certifications which is called beyond visual line of sight, but nobody has that yet because it is such a high bar to get. I wish I could get certified in that, but it's just so difficult, and it needs to be difficult because if everyone could just fly their drones off, we would have so many problems, people crashing and injuring and hurting people. It needs to be done in the right way, but it will come. It will come in the future where you will see drones and things flying all over the shop. But how that will be done safely is what the federal government is working on at the moment. How much time have we got? Oh, I've got 4 minutes. Oh no. All right. You must not fly over and above people. Don't fly over crowds. Don't go to the MCG and watch the footy with your drone. Respect personal privacy. Don't record or don't photograph people without their permission. So where can I fly? So this is the open wing. So just Google open sky and it will come up. Terms and conditions. I'm reading all these terms and conditions. Okay, so this is the map of Melbourne. Red, so I'm going to choose that I am a recreational flyer, or if I have an REOC, which I do, I can choose REOC and it changes the conditions in which I can fly. Let's stick with recreational. Big red no-no around Moorabbin Airport. And then see all these circles? These are all helipads. We have a lot of helipads. But we've also got a fire just here where it says, hey, there's a fire at Point Cook. Don't fly near Point Cook. And also there is a big oil refinery there. Don't fly near an oil refinery. They get angry at you. As well as that, there is a water landing zone for what are they called? The water planes? Seaplane. There's a seaplane landing zone there as well. But you can see it there. You can see the fires. You can see where there's the no-go zones and the caution zones there. Might run a little bit over, but this is the question I get all the time. A drone came up to me, and the drone flew over my house. How are they allowed to do that? And the answer is, it's difficult, because you need to have, how we get around these rules is we get permission from any landholder or manager or owner that we fly over, property that we fly over. We get their permission. That's how we do it. And we limit ourselves to locations in which we can get that permission. That's a very risk-averse way to interpret the rules, because we're a university. We're going to stay in the rules. We're not going to push the definition. But these are the rules of trespass. So the first thing is a nuisance. So if I fly a drone over somebody else's property, I need to not impede, what's the term? A nuisance occurs where there is a continual activity that causes damage and interferes with the normal enjoyment of the property. So you can't, if the drone was just go, and that's it, you can't really argue that that was continual and impacting the enjoyment of the property. It would need to be buzzing there for a sustained period of time and impacting people's private enjoyment of their own space. Now, if it does sit there and hover all day, every day, yeah, there is a good argument, and you can push for that is illegal because it's trespass. Now, the second thing is a privacy clause. Peering or prying on another person in or near a building without reasonable excuse is an offence. Reasonable excuse is probably a pretty good one. If somebody is surveying a construction site with a drone, which I do, and out in the side here is somebody's property, and I capture a photo of their property, that is, I have a reasonable reason for taking that photo. So that is allowed. It's not the purpose of it, and I can't be identifiable. So the key question here is, if there's somebody in that backyard, it's going to be at an oblique and far down there. There's no way you can identify who that is. Same with the cars. If I'm flying over cars, you can't read the number plate. So it's not an identifiable, and people in that aren't identifiable. If I was to take a photo from here, of course, you could be identified from that photo. So I would need your permission to take that photo. But 99.9% of the work that we do with a drone, you're 30 meters away from somebody, at a minimum 30 meters away from somebody. So you're not going to have an issue with them being able to be identified in that photo. Hence, they don't need permission. Now, they fly in your bedroom window and start taking photos. Clearly, that's trespass, and that's you're violating that. But so that's the bar there is it identifiable? Are the people or cars or property identifiable in that image? We do training. I suppose that's probably less relevant to you. This is a slide probably back from the researchers trying to convince researchers to get a pilot's license. That's me inspecting the Westgate Bridge. Thank you. That's all. I'm going to go. Oh, 2 minutes over. That's all right. All right. Thanks, guys. Did anyone have any questions? No. Yeah. Yeah. Great. That is a limitation that is put in there by the manufacturer. May I ask which one it is? Yep. So there is a section in there that you can disable that. That what's called a geofence. You can disable that, and all it requires you to say is, I have a license I have permission and a license to operate in that location. But look, that's a pretty good measure from they didn't have to put that in there. The manufacturer didn't have to put that in there, but it's a pretty good gesture that they're like, we're going to stop you doing this unless you specifically tell us and sign a little thing saying that you've got permission to do so. So yeah, that's a good. Mm-hmm. Mm. All it would do maybe is stop flying. It wouldn't fall out of the sky. It would just hit the geofence and just push up against it. You can turn the DP, well, before these things were as sophisticated as they are now, you could just switch the GPS off and fly in manually. But again, don't try and break the rules. So just like if you've got a license then and got permission to do so, tick that box and go in there. But I'm confident that the aircraft wouldn't just go. Oh, that's a really hard question. And cops have the same problem as well. Sorry. Oh, so do you just want to?
Yep. So the question from the Zoom audience is, how do you identify a drone to report trespassing?
So you've seen a drone. It's buzzing in your bedroom window. What do you do next? Well, the first thing you do, if it's that close to you, try and swat it out of the air. But shut the window. You close your blinds. But the problem is, it's really hard, and cops are going to have a challenge as well. The best thing you do is just, it went off in that direction. Note which way it went. But the answer is, it's really difficult. There are ways of tracking the signal, but like you need to have a whole system and set up. There's a whole raft of new technology, anti-drone technology coming out to track the messages, cut the messages off, so it loses the drone loses connection to the controller. You basically jam it, which means the drone will go back to its home location. And hypothetically, you're thinking it's the footy. You're at the footy. You're at MCG, and the managers of the MCG start seeing somebody. There's a drone somewhere. What do they do? People are in danger if this thing, hits somebody. What do they do? So they may employ a jammer, which will cut the signal to the drone. And the drone will go back to its home location. What you really hope it doesn't do is just fall out of the sky, which typically these days they don't if they're these kinds. So the question is, it's hard, sadly. Are any of you sticking around for the exhibition? Because if not, because what I got carried away with talking. I kind of wanted to show you guys like the thermal camera and everything like that. If you've got time and nobody needs to run away, then I'll switch on the thermal camera. Actually, I'll do that for the Zoom because obviously I'm going to run over time, guys, and I apologize. Yeah. Hopefully the guys on Zoom will get some benefit from this. I'm just going a bit paranoid.
I'll just turn on the.
So this is called a Matrice M300, Matrice M300 Chinese drone DJI enterprise level with a thermal camera on it. Oh, I'm going to have to be over there, aren't I? I'm going to have to go around here. Yeah. This is an enterprise drone. You can mount multiple sensors on it. Very capable and is industry standard. Just want to step over that for me, please. Yep. Industry price tag is $16,000 for that. The camera is $7,000, but there is a LiDAR system I have on it, which is $21,000. That is a drop in the pond to the hybrid. I have a half petrol, half electric drone, which is $250,000. But I've never flown it because it's too dangerous. It's so big, so dangerous. I can't bring myself to, to put it in the air. It's just too dangerous. So, sorry, color profile? Yep. Mm-hmm. So there are some really amazing, I'm no photographer, so I'm going to have struggle answering that question. I know that you don't need this drone to do really good photography. The one I would suggest would be the Mavic 3, Mavic Enterprise 3, Mavic Pro 3. Anyway, yeah, they're amazing, and they have some great functionality for imagery. Okay. Okay, this is what happened last time. Unplug, plug it back in. Forgive me. Oh, oh, I'm recording. Oops. Just want to click source and see if we can get it back to. So. This is what happened to me last time. I had to unplug it and plug it back in a couple of times. Oh, so it gets the thermal and then it takes it away for whatever reason. So we had this working a second ago, so I promise it does work. Yes, so you've got the wide angle there. But not there. We had it working before. Yeah. Okay. I just yesterday.
To those in the Zoom audience, just some slight technical difficulties.
See that it's there, but it's just away from
Does that sort of conclude the Zoom? So Matthew is demonstrating the thermal camera.
So yeah, as I said, it was just it's just a camera. It's just reflecting what. Anyone else want to say hello? Give us a wave. So we can't see through your glasses, even though they're not sunglasses. They reflect long wave infrared. We go there. So what I'm hoping will do, if I click this button, did it change? What I'm going to hopefully do. Can I ask a favor? Can you move one seat to the side? And I'm going to see if I can have a look at the city from here. What's the beeping? Forgive me as I try and control this with one hand. So we've got the city there. Yep. Oh, it's just zoomed out. Certainly. The annoying thing is that the so we can have a look at the crane. We can see all the way out there to the city. What's beeping? Oh no, it's this. It's trying to focus. You can hear it. It's trying to focus every time. Yeah. So that beeping is just the focus trying there. So if we zoom out, that's what we're looking at. It is at 20, 40, 60, I believe it's 80. Yeah, 80. So anything beyond 80 is digital zoom. But yeah, that's what we use to inspect power lines from a distance. But sadly, there's no zoom in for thermal. It's just this wide angle. And I can see that you're 28.5 degrees. 32. Anyone got a fever here? Oh, we've got to be careful. 32. Yeah, obviously it's not your ooh, or something else is hot up there. What are we looking at here? See, it's black for us. If you turn around and have a look inside those holes, it's just pitch black. But clearly something's emitting a lot of heat in there and the whole room is glowing. So if I change this to wide, it's just pitch black in those holes. It's very black, and then we go there, and there's something warm in there. It's probably lighting, the projector's down here at the front, but I'm thinking it's a, do you know, Tim? Base power units, there we go. Generating, oh, how hot is it? Oh, can I get the crosshairs on it? Looks pretty warm. I can't get the crosshairs on it. Not 30, oh, it's only 30 degrees. 36.5, there we go. But yeah, that's what we do. Does anyone want to give a play around? Draw something on the back wall? If not, yeah, that's pretty much all I had to show, guys. Happy to answer your questions at 1 o'clock. Is it downstairs, Linda? Just here? Yeah, I'll be here at 1 o'clock to answer more questions one-on-one if you wanted. Otherwise, thanks for your patience. Thanks for your attention.